I'm going to call the Pownal Select Board meeting to order on the Thursday, July 13th at 7 p.m. for the agenda approval of the minutes, 7/6/17 warrants, mail, administrative assistant report, old business, Mary Lewis excess weight permit, Bob Jarvis Empower Pownal concerns, the town job description, and approval of 2017 pay raises. What's your motion, guys?
Can I make a motion that we table the town administrator job description for another night?
I have no
Looks like
trouble
we
with
got
that
a
if the
full-
boards agree with that.
Full agenda tonight.
I second.
Okay, we'll table that. Any other changes? Okay, get a second to the motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor with the change and the agenda as read, say aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of 7/6/17.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on them? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Warrants. Payroll ending 7/14/17 in the amount of $6,918.05. Accounts payable ending 7/14/17 in the amount of $17,717.22. The large one on this was for crushing from Breads and Brothers for $6,719. What's your pleasure, guys?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on any of them? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have a notice from the Vermont Department of Taxes to do with educational tax rates for fiscal year 2018. Our non-residential tax rate is going to be $1.4295, which is down not quite 2 cents. Actually, it's down less than 2 cents. It says .0045 with an arrow, so I assume that's what it was down. Homestead tax rate to be assessed, it'll be 1.3887, which is up 0.0266, which is a little better than 2.5 cents. So the homestead rate has gone up, but the business and non-residential has gone down. And that's just the state education tax. That's not the town tax. We haven't set it yet, but we will be soon. Okay. This confirmation letter from the BCRC to do with participation in the municipal road grant and aid pilot project. They're thanking us for a resolution to agree to participate in the road grants. And it says, let's see, a grant program requires municipalities to install best management practices to bring out more hydrology studies, and so it goes on. But it's basically a grant that we've applied for that we hope to receive. We have a copy of a letter in here from John Copens to Mike Slattery and a number of other people. And this is to do with the Empower Pownal concerns, and we'll be talking more about that later, so I'm not gonna read 5 pages of notes. Okay. The other thing we have is the Vermont Agency of Transportation Department Motor Vehicles Uniform Municipal Excess Weight Permit that's been applied for by Wagner Harwood. Basically, this is the same permit that we've been giving out right along. And I know we're gonna talk about permits later today, but if we don't grant this, the guy will be driving without a permit. So we know we're gonna change all the weight limits on these things, but you might
Motion to
wanna
approve the permit.
at least
We
let him
change
get a
the
permit.
weight.
Yeah. Got a second on that?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That way they're, even though the weights are gonna be a little different, they'll be fine. Okay. Moving on. Administrative assistant report.
Catch up.
That's okay.
Let's see. Jen Hawley will be coming to the office during the month of August to work with staff and getting staff department information on the new website. Reiterating from last week's report on the main office copier, I'll begin looking into it after vacation. There's certain features and things that others have to be involved in to decide what we need to be looking at. And also I've heard that I think some of us would like to make copies of Mylars, and so that's another feature to consider. So we'll look into that after I get back from vacation. Also reiterating from last week, the phone upgrade is estimated to cost about $4,000. Chuck will be in next month, and we'll look at the options that he has for you folks. The town's attorney will meet with the full board and assistant town clerk on August 3rd. I did some research for tonight's meeting for the road department, and I'm trying to get the highway department more involved with the road scholar program.
Good.
And basically that's my report tonight, but I would like to know what the board would like to do for July 20 meeting.
You're on vacation that week? What's the pressing issue that's got to be dealt with then? If we don't hold a meeting, I would urge every member to take that night and go around and look at that list of roads that I saw that was in the minutes, because you'll have some daylight, and actually take some time, because we're not going to meet, go out and look at them. Let's see what the shapes they're in, and then we can have a good discussion when Joe comes and wants to talk about roads in the spring.
And we can also look at the job description for the town administrator
Yep.
on our own at home, and then not
Make
have a meeting.
changes, and so forth. Could you send that electronically to all of us? Then if we want to make changes, we
Sure.
can make changes and
Yep.
send them, then bring it in and be in front of us so we can have a better discussion. Okay?
Okay, so tentatively, I'm hearing no meeting.
No meeting next week. We'll see you when you come back from vacation.
Okay, so we'll see you all August 3rd.
August 3rd.
Yep.
And do we have a sewer board meeting the
No.
following week? No?
No.
Okay.
Our sewer board meeting is August 22 or 24.
Okay.
Which one of them?
Okay. Any other things to discuss with the administrative assistant this time? If not, I'm gonna move on. Excess weight permits, Murray Lewis.
I got some questions about the permit that we all apply for. Why do we only get 60,000? And then you have to, according to the wording of your permit, anything over 60,000, you have to contact the road foreman and get permission per occurrence. With the volume of trucks that are in and out of this town, your road foreman is now going to be on the phone a lot. The board voted they're going to beef up the enforcement of the weights on the roads with the DMV. I questioned Kevin Andrews about what would happen if I got pulled over with my truck and trailer, piece of equipment on. I applied for 80,000. Say I weighed 76,000 pounds. Say I called Joel. He granted me the blessing to go. I strongly urge to rethink this, because without a confirmation number or anything, Kevin's response to me was the way they would be handling it is they weighed you, say I weighed 76,000 pounds. And say I tried to get a hold of Joel, say he's in a meeting, he's working, no cell phone service, what have you. That officer will be issuing me a ticket. And then we have to go later, play phone tag to try to get this out. Or court. Now we're tying up court, going to court for this to get thrown out if it's right. I'm with you. If I'm over the 80,000, it's my fault. Ticket. But across the board, we get 60,000 for everything. I got a log truck, 4 axles, 60,000. Dump truck and trailer, 5 axles, 60,000. Dump truck, just a straight dump truck, 60,000. Several of the guys in this room here or whatever would literally have to call Joel every morning to get permission to take their equipment away from their shop to go to work each day. Is this something that the board wants to do? Now, I could see mud season, when the roads are broke up or something, a lot of towns post the roads, back roads and stuff like that. You have our insurance on file and everything else naming the town of Pownal. I would just like to know, is there a way this can be adjusted or whatever? I talked to RJ Jolly. He issues the ones to the town of Bennington.
You want me to answer that?
Well, I want to know,
Okay.
I was gonna let him.
And RJ Jolly, what you request, if it's legally permitted per state of Vermont for that truck configuration, truck, trailer, whatever, the permit is granted. They have the insurance on file, everything else. Otherwise than this, like with delivering, you're not only putting a hardship on the guys that are trying to work, but your taxpayers that want services, now instead of getting 3 loads, they're gonna have to get 4 or 5 loads, more truck time, whatever else, because you gotta play this game.
Okay, I want to thank you for coming in. As you're probably well aware, most of us aren't truck drivers that are on the board and don't understand the concerns that you just voiced. But our road foreman has gone to Bennington and elsewhere we're going to try to modify and change this. Did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. I know Bruce in a minute. So basically, we're working on trying to correct our problems. And Bruce, you know more about what the Bennington thing was, so why don't you tell them what
Well,
been doing.
I was the one that really had Chad come in and Sheriff's Department come in because they were talking about scales. And I didn't know the right way to do this. So we had him in here. He told us what we could do and what we couldn't do. With 60,000 gross vehicle weight, we can't do nothing. So our plan is to change 2 axles, 33,000, 3 axles, 60,000, 4 axles, 69,000, and 5 axles, 80,000. The only thing, they just got to check with Outfit in the State to make sure that will be the same thing Bennington's doing.
About 6 axles.
We,
State permits 99,000.
I know, but we didn't want to go into that 6 axles, and yes, they checked with Joel.
Well, I guess the question I would ask
That's
is,
the 99.
what roads will we run 6 axles on?
Well, I don't know, anybody could end up running 6 axles, actually.
That,
Log trucks are,
Strollliners get enough picked up every day.
Yeah,
and that's up in there too?
yeah,
Okay, because I have no idea what these trucks
Grain
are.
trucks are the same way, 6 axles.
yeah,
Well, then, personally, I think then what we should do is list 6 axle.
Okay.
And put it down. And we're gonna, whoever does this is gonna put that on their application. We'll know who it is. We'll have their insurance.
Yeah.
And if they go out there in mud season and tear the road all to shreds, we'll know who it is.
Right.
Because
Is
our
this-
main goal is to protect the citizens of the town and the roads.
And I understand that.
And that's real,
You know-
we're not here to try to prevent any truck from going anywhere or doing things properly. And the key word, as you said, if you were over, you'd take your ticket. You know, it's like
Right,
me when I
you know.
speed, I get a ticket, you take care of it.
but with the road permits you got now, we're gonna have to take them back and get rid of this 60,000 that's on it.
Well, I think what will happen is if, we're gonna check on the legality of it, but I think the board itself can move to change all permits to the list that we currently have so that you don't have to pay again and stuff. What we'll do is we'll just make a motion to change all permits to this weight limit. And for each axle as it goes down through, and we'll change the wording down the bottom where it talks about calling him at 60,000. We'll say basically any weight over the above specified, we'll have to notify him. So those would be the changes I see once Joel clears and
Right.
says, here's what we're gonna do. And I would think that if we legally can do that, we're the ones that set the weight limit, and I think we might be able to do that. We'll just do it.
Will
Right.
will
No.
those weights work for you guys?
Oh, yeah.
That's legal for the state of Vermont,
limits is
so-
all we're looking for.
You know, it's not about trying to haul a super load through
No.
town.
Right.
It's just, as soon as we're on 346, Route 7, or whatever, that's what we can legally be,
Yeah.
you know, and you have to go through one of them roads to get to any road in town of Pownell. You know what I mean?
Well, we have a lot of roads that are posted for certain weight too, and I guess I don't know how these permits work, if that means, you know, I know if you're working on the road, if you're out there logging on the end of that road, you're gonna go on that road, but at that point, Joe's been told and he said, okay, go over. And I think that's where, our concern really is the fly-by-nights that go through and don't care and do their
Right,
thing.
and it's understood. I understand that totally, you know, but without getting this done and get the ball rolling, when that ticket gets punched to any one of us, it goes to federal motor safety carriers. They ding our thing that Murray Lewis got a ticket for overweight. Your rating goes down, your insurance goes up. Try and eliminate that. The cost of trucking is enough already.
So it's gonna be a one-time permit, right?
It's a
Well,
year.
well,
Well,
each-
a yearly
each year-
permit.
Yeah, but
Has
just
been
once a
yearly.
year.
Yeah,
Like always.
and basically, it'll be the same as always.
Yeah.
You pay a $10 fee, that's all your trucks. You're listing them all, where if you were only a single person, you would, you know, have just the one. But basically, I would, again, we're just, Joe would basically send a message that says that we need to check the legality of it before we make a decision. So I just want to wait on him to come and tell us that he's checked on it, he's okay. Then I would recommend the board to just make a motion to change to allow all the permitted, I'll use uniform municipal accessory permits to be changed to these weight limits. And then we could do that, and it would be in the minutes, and all that was on file would be changed. And we can check to see if it's legal, but I think that we can do that at that point. So that's what I would recommend. But again, thank you all for coming.
What was the, was there road damage that the town was experiencing? Why the sudden change in 2017 here?
There's been no change.
There's been no, yeah.
This has been this way for years.
No, asking DOT enforcement on private roads. is
But this all
no
came about
sheriff's.
because.
This big, because I asked them to come here.
Right.
Because with this 60,000 gross vehicle weight, none of you guys are legal. So we gotta change it, and I don't know how to change it, and you get them in here, they give you the guide, and then you get in the book and try to figure out this, you need to be a lawyer, and I'm not, so.
So-
We came without this because Bennington's doing the same
No,
thing,
well-
so.
Well, to be fair, we've had bridges that have been damaged where
Right.
people hauled in the trucks without having permits. There's been a number of things that's happened over the last couple of years, which has brought us to the point where we think there should be some enforcement in town. And that's why we've asked the people to come down and enforce. Now, they made it very clear to us that the enforcement's gonna be scattered, because their time is limited, there's very few of them, they're all over the state, so that's where we're at the moment. But, you know, I don't think you guys are looking to go out and break the law by going over
No.
the weight limits, so I don't see where it will impact you, but what I look at is I know I live on North Pownell Road, and I know there's times people are using GPS to take the road, and all of a sudden it says 24,000 pounds, and down they go. You know, I've seen tour buses, and I've seen everything under the sun that, it's because they're, and I know what it is, today with the GPS in your vehicles, you follow the route. And I think,
How does a national trucking company know that Pownell has this law? I mean, it doesn't affect me, but I'm just thinking of all the load board carriers out there that come and haul loads.
well, they have to get a state permit, I would assume, to even come in the state.
I don't think you can stop them from making a delivery.
No, you can't.
You can't stop anybody from making a delivery, period.
It's a one-time delivery, usually
Yeah.
it's waived with that.
Who
Because
set the weight limit at 60,000 to begin with?
We can find out, we look back, we
It's been,
spent,
they
I don't know how
probably did
many.
it 20, 30 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, we went back 20 years and we couldn't find anything after that.
Henry Kilbride?
55, and the permit brings us.
That was back before him, I guess.
Harry was pushing
60.
Yeah, it's-
So it's 60, goes to 69.
yeah, so I, like I said,
And we had a problem with somebody going across our bridge in Pownell, and we asked him to get a permit, and he laughed at us and told us to kiss his butt, and okay, 3 days later, he got his $10 permit and said, ha ha ha, there you go, and then we started discussing roads and limits and everything else, and that's how we ended up here too.
yeah.
So we weren't doing anything to shun any of you guys.
So,
Do you know how much the new 3-axle town of Pownal truckways with a plow and sander and a load of sand.
It's
3
well
axles.
over.
71,000.
Yeah, like I say, I know
And
when
a
we bought it.
3-axle permit registered, I understand that municipalities are exempt, but we're 60.
Yeah.
So there you go, his tri-axle done truck bills, whatever, 69,000, and
We're all in trouble.
we gotta dance. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
why
we knew it
we're
was
trying to
illegal.
get rid of this.
But how do you fix it? So you gotta go through the chain, find
Yeah,
out.
I think we're on the right track. I think that we can fix this pretty quick. In fact, the more I think of it and talking at the same time, I would take a motion from the board to approve this with Joel's approval. In other words, you would make a motion, and if Joel approves it.
I make a motion that we approve it with
then-
Joel's approval.
Because we're not
I'll
meeting
second
next
that.
week.
Right, we're not meeting next week.
Okay.
Good.
Need a second, got a
You
second?
got a second, go ahead.
Yes, Bill.
Nelson, if you're gonna correct this, is there then any need to have the municipal roads patrolled by the DOT and the sheriffs?
No.
Because it's a commonality now of all the roads.
It isn't.
The
No.
only benefit I see to you folks is the 50 to 80% of the fine that they said that you would get. And with some of us are concerned this might be a revenue generating measure.
Well, we weren't looking for it to be a revenue
No.
generator.
Well,
And they pretty much told us they didn't think it would be.
I'm gonna say, Bill, every time I've been here and somebody has told us it's been a revenue generator, whether it was a transfer station or something else,
We lose.
all I know is the taxpayers pay a little more, so.
absolutely.
And Kevin
else, I pay
suggested to us,
We
Kevin
all do.
suggested to us that we just check a road and see how many trucks are going over at
Yeah.
overweight and everything.
Okay,
but-
now the motion was to go with what Bennington had with the change down here where it says any weight over the above will be approved by the road foreman for each and every occurrence. And that's, so we're gonna change that too at the same time with this.
We
Yeah.
also need to change to 6 axles too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6 axles is, what was the amount?
What'd you say, 9?
99.
That's what the state says, 90?
Yep, 99.
Yeah, all right, well, that's what
So with
Yeah, we
those
should go with the
changes, and
state.
we can just give this to Linda and she'll,
Nelson. Just, sorry.
Go
If
ahead.
you'll accept a comment.
That's fine.
Could it be simplified and more encompassing to say pursuant to state statute? Because I'm thinking there are exemptions. You've got dairy, milk products is allowed to go higher. You're gonna get, there's a lot of intricacies. I think what everybody's trying to say is that we wanna haul what we can legally haul as soon as we get to 346 or
What the
7, you know, so
What the state limits
We
are
are-
for our configuration.
it would solve everything and allow the flexibility of that rule going forward if there's any change up or down for you to say at this point pursuant to state road legal limits.
Well, basically, what we're not talking about the state road, we're talking about the town roads, and they fall under different regulations. We
Yeah.
get this set.
I know, but by linking the two, you'll always be in unison with what the state is doing, whether they go up or down.
Yeah, I have trouble when I say, do whatever the state do, why have this at all?
Because you need insurance.
Yes.
And I know.
And that's the point of it. So you want to make sure that bridge that got damaged is paid for.
Yeah, and I think it's up to this board and you guys, again, if this gets out of date, don't be afraid to come in and tell the board. It's where I'm at. I rather than, because what'll happen is if you say the state reg, this will all get forgotten about and some people will apply, some won't. And this sort of, I think, makes it so that people understand they have to come every year. It's just my thoughts anyways. I don't know about the rest of you. No comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So could you take care of that,
We'll
Linda?
also need to change our signage, won't we, on our,
No.
No, everything stays the
That's
same.
nothing to do with
Everything's
The
okay.
only thing it does
This is just permits allowing them to go.
so once Joel approves what the wording is, just
Yeah.
change it.
Apparently, what I've learned, if you're delivering something, it doesn't matter the weight anyway.
And
And if you're
base,
hauling milk, I guess there's no restriction, so.
No, there is.
Don't worry
It's-
about it.
The only way, if you cross a posted bridge, it can get you in trouble if you're delivering freight. I'll tell you that right now. Regardless of what the road says.
yeah, and
You
some of
got
our
a
bridges,
posted bridge, you can't cross it.
I think most of our bridges are posted.
See, this is a learning experience for us here anyway. I don't know about you fellas, you've got to know the law or else you'll be paying a lot of fines.
It's hell on this side of the table, I'll tell you.
Well, this fella knows, he was a trailer truck driver for years, but, The only thing, I have no knowledge on this stuff. When they said 60, I thought that's all you could haul on them tandem trucks. I didn't realize it was a lot more.
To Mr.
I
Lowndes'
should have, I guess, but
point, I do think that it sends a message to have DOT patrolling the private roads. And if, as you say, Mr. Martell, if
This was my fault because I asked him to come down to see where the problem really was. And when he came and told us what we could legally do and what we couldn't, we're better off not to have them. And we're better off, technically, why do we want the sheriffs with scales? We don't really need them. It's not gonna solve our problem. This will solve our problem. So I was in the wrong field, I'm sorry, but you gotta learn somehow.
we appreciate getting the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
And we hope that, we urge the board to consider that other ruling of hiring the sheriffs.
Yeah.
Okay,
You guys are always welcome to come in and
anytime.
tell us when we're
There's
doing
not
something
enough
wrong.
chairs.
Well,
Bring your own next
That's what we're gonna
time.
have is, bring your own chair.
private meeting and send up
RSVPs
one
next time.
representative.
So could I add one factor to
Sure.
this? So with having all this said here this evening, should we not be informing the sheriffs should
the
we be,
change.
Yeah.
to not go forward with the training?
yeah.
That was kind of left in a very limbo.
I would leave it in a limbo at this point and wait and see, because he's gonna talk to other people and see what it costs. It might be not just our town.
Yeah, but these guys don't wanna get stopped and have the.
Well, they're legal now if they
and
get
gotta-
stopped. It's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
it's
So,
not,
Why,
what
why
I'm looking,
are we? why are we
I'm looking for the people that are.
Legal, yeah.
No, I mean,
In our truck
yeah.
with the approved
I'm-
weight.
Well, it's in
yeah,
the motion.
I'm worried about the other people, not you people. And I think if it's random enough and the word gets out, people learn that your town has this randomly through the year, I think that's fine. We're not gonna ask this, even if the sheriff department doesn't, we're not gonna ask them to be down here every month. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is a deterrent for the people. And I think that's a reasonable thing to do if it doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. That's why I wanna see what he's coming back with a cost. It's the only reason why I wouldn't remove it at this time.
I'm
'Cause you
kinda
might-
concerned about if they're gonna run a operation down on the hill and one of these guys goes through.
And if they're overweight, they've already said they understand. If they're
Once
not
they-
overweight, they'll be fine.
Once they get this updated, they won't be
All
overweight.
right.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Yes,
All right.
The update, was the town planning to provide a new permit to us through the mail or some such thing?
yes.
Okay.
Linda, I think you need that, and Linda will take care of that and make sure that the wording's changed and all the addresses are on the,
Got a ballpark
Permits.
figure when those might arrive, no?
as soon as Joel can approve it, and Linda will be back from vacation, so you're
She's
talking
on-
probably
yeah.
2 weeks.
Will that work?
That was like Marie pointed out, the problem right now, it's a ticket.
Well, she'll let the sheriff and, the state police know tomorrow, so, that has changed.
Yeah, I suppose being in limbo would probably be overlooked by the law.
Tell him to call Bruce, he's always home, if somebody stops you.
Day or night.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna move on down the agenda. Thank you. Before I go to
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Jarvis, I'm gonna take and do one other business we have to for the town, which shouldn't take but a moment.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
You. Have a good night.
Good night.
Are they recorded with Julie, or do you
Hi, how
have
are you?
those permits, Linda?
I have them all. They're not a recordable item.
Thanks,
Okay, I was
Mr.
just wondering because we
Longsberg.
could ask her to, but it's,
It's not a recordable item that involves her office.
okay. This is just some housekeeping we need to do. And basically what it is to approve the 2017 pay raises that the board,
Everybody got?
has everybody got a copy of what was,
I know what
Stated.
they are. I took it home. That's all.
I make a motion to approve them as listed.
I thought we were
I'm
gonna.
gonna-
with the exception of,
I wanna
Oh,
speak
excuse
on
me.
a lister's part.
Yeah,
you want a second before any
Yeah,
discussion?
yeah, don't we need a second before
That's
discussion?
right, well, go ahead, but you wanted to prove it instantly.
I'm sorry.
I got a motion to approve, need a second?
As they are now?
Yeah, no.
Well, we
Say
have to
second
do,
or not?
we
I'll
have to,
second.
Okay, I approve it, all right.
and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just a procedure.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
All right, well, look at, generally, we went 50 cents all the way down through, pretty much. There was special exceptions for at least 2 people, and I think there should have been a special exception for the chairman of the listers, who is a certified appraiser, and we leaned a little for certification with our sewer plant employee, and if we got people, I think that we ought to bump that one up. And I would say probably another $1 from where it is. Well, we already gave the 50 cents. I would say another $1. That's what we did with the kid down in the sewer plant. And if the other people want to get higher education, get more qualified, whatever you want to call it, they should get more money. That's a suggestion I got.
You're right on with the fact that's been our past practice. We've done that for years, at least
That's right.
15 I'm aware of, that
Yeah.
if people get certified and trained, we've always given them more money. So I'm with you 100% on that. And I think the dollar amount is the right amount to go.
That's the reason why I was encouraging the highway department to move forward with the road scholar, because we've had this program.
For a long time.
And we have a lot of new employees on the road crew now.
And if a person does perform real well, I mean,
Gotta pay 'em.
they'll be acknowledged. It isn't like we're overpaying anybody here anyway.
Oh, no.
But they should be acknowledged for, because they have.
Guaranteed.
I
Okay.
agree with that.
We need a motion?
We had a motion in a second.
Yep. I'm looking down this.
So I guess maybe
And
I
there
should
is
change
no-
the motion to as amended.
Yes, I need a motion to, as amended, or
Make a motion to approve the salary increases as amended.
Second?
okay, all those that say aye to the approved amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All of those to approve the change with the amendment, and all the others say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That takes care of that. It's a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. That's good.
Policy and procedures.
Gotta make sure you do it, otherwise you can't pay them. And you made it retroactive, or did you just say the
Well, it was
next pay
supposed to
period?
start next week or whatever.
I believe they're going to. I talked to our treasurer and she thought we could do it by the 18th.
Yeah, it was supposed to
Make the
start.
amendment on there, and the instructions are on the back of it. That's what the minutes
Effective
reflect.
payroll ending 7/16.
That's a motion.
Yes.
That
it's a
was
motion.
done.
Okay.
It's already in last
week's
minutes.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
But they didn't move on, make them vote
No,
on
we
it?
didn't come out of
No,
executive
they didn't.
session and then move on.
Okay, so I got a motion, I got a second for effective date to start. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sufficient.
Bruce and
Yeah, whatever.
Or Sue and Ron.
Sue and what? Sue and
Sue
what? Sue and who?
Okay.
Okay, Bob Jarvis,
Okay.
you're up.
Thank you.
Come on up.
So a couple of weeks ago, I had sent a letter of concern about the Empower Pownal program. I did receive a response from the head of the Planning Commission, and the response was read at the last meeting, but my concerns weren't. It was on mine, it was 2.5 pages, but it was said that it was 4 pages, so he didn't want to read the concerns. So I've come today with a list, an abbreviated list, of the concerns and the response, and I would like to be able to read both, just to get them both in the public forum, so that everybody, anyone watching at home, can see the response in context of the concerns. Is that fair?
It's fine. Yeah, if you're gonna do this very quick, I'm okay with that. Looks like you only
It'll
got
be pretty
about a
quick.
page and a half.
Yeah, it's very short, so you can
Yeah,
see that.
go ahead.
And this is most of it too. I mean, I was disappointed that it wasn't read in context of the response. And then I would like to make a couple of comments on the response
Sure,
as well.
go ahead first.
All right. So first, regarding the process, I would like to understand why it's being fast tracked. and, in my view, without a democratic process. It's a multi-year initiative, but it was put forth in the March 16th Planning Commission that there was only 2 weeks to apply. So I assume that that was to apply to be one of the first towns, but it's a multi-year initiative, and I think we probably could have gone for another year and give us time to actually debate it as a town and let the citizens understand what it's really about. The plan itself is transformative. That's in the goals of the plan, and transformative to both our economy and our way of life. So this seems pretty severe, and severe either good or severe either bad, but that's the debate I believe we should have as a town, and then vote whether or not we want to be engaged in the Empower Pownal program. So all initiatives of this magnitude have pros and cons. The program is now approved without a single cost or con being cataloged, communicated, or discussed. By its own goals, this will transform our economy, impacting every citizen of the town. Shouldn't there have been a cost-benefits analysis on this initiative before proceeding? Without this, how do we clearly state to Pownal residents what is really at stake in terms of taxes, regulations, and required lifestyle changes? The concerns: inviting residents to a planning session with clear marketing towards only one mindset is not a democratic process and doesn't adequately address the needs of our town. So on that, I'm referring to the postcard that was sent out. That, I mean, if you were opposed to this, you wouldn't even know you were opposed to it by reading that postcard.
Can I just ask a question? You know
Sure.
that the select board this isn't part of the select board. This Empower
Well,
Pownal.
we approved, move forward, but let him finish
Let
that.
me finish
All
his,
right.
his,
But this is the forum that the response was read, and the concerns were not. Okay. So my understanding of smart growth, and it ties in, and I'll tie it in. My understanding of smart growth is it uses a combination of multi-use land planning, zoning, eminent domain, and incentives to get people to move to central location. Over time, these incentives become coercive as citizens can no longer afford to keep their property. The end result will be Pownal citizens will lose their property, often homes and land that have been in families for years, decades, and generations. Pownal citizens need absolute and unequivocal assurances that this is not part of the Vermont's plan, nor this program. If this is part of the plan, that needs to be clearly communicated as well. Facilitators at the event on June 24th, and I was there, used the term smart growth repeatedly. I would also point out that this is the blueprint. Sorry. This is a blueprint for this Empower Pownal program, which is actually the Section 6, the Climate Economy Models Initiative, Climate Economy Model Communities Program. Section 6 covers this initiative, and now it's labeled Empower Pownal at here. But this is part of a lot. Well, I'll get into that later. I'll finish the letter first. It is my opinion that we need to take immediate action to ensure all residents have a say in this program going forward. The statement, "This is not about what we aren't going to do," doesn't meet this objective. Again, the goals of this program are transformative to both our economy and our way of life, and no thank you must be an option. That applies to both the individual initiatives that were generated by the small, non-representative subset of our town that this program was marketed towards, as well as the entire initiative. This should be a town vote, not simply the non-representative vote plan for process planned for July 25th. That process will allow us to pick our initiatives, but it will not allow us to say no thank you. How do we ensure all citizen-driven ideas expressed during the decisions make the vote? From what I observed in the 3 sessions I attended, and I did attend, the facilitators are not just driving the process, they are also driving the ideas. For all initiatives, the costs must be made clear to all residents. Costs include both monetary and lifestyle changes. I believe we can be responsible to the environment while respecting individual property rights and without destroying all that makes Pownal and Vermont such a great community to live in. And from what I heard on that kickoff meeting, the facilitators don't share that view. They talked about this entirely as transformative. The one thing that I did leave out of this, I cut it out to make it a little bit shorter, but so from memory, I want to put that in here. One of my concerns was, how does this program fit into the overall plan from Vermont? Because each of these initiatives, this Progress for Vermont report and the action items is broken up into 7 different sections. The climate economy model is section 6. And that's what we're working on now. But it does fit into it is one piece of many pieces that are being implemented. This reads to me, and I'm familiar with smart growth because I've read about it for years, both the pros and the cons, how it's sold and the risks associated with it. This reads to me like a smart growth implementation plan for the state of Vermont. And to take this in sections of the way that we've done it and say, oh, this doesn't have anything to do with that, this doesn't have anything to do with wind, or this doesn't, is not taking a holistic view. So those were the concerns. The response that I got, pardon me, getting a little dry now. The response that I got is Empower Pownal is a community-led series of meetings being facilitated by the VCRD. Pownal Select Board voted to approve this process to encourage more civic participation in areas that support the Pownal Town Plan, particularly energy efficiency, economic development, and community recreation. Members of the Planning Commission and Select Board joined the initial Empower Pownal Steering Committee, but activities will be led by volunteer committees and not town officials. Everyone in the town is invited to participate. Dot voting for the Empower Pownal program is July 25th meeting is not a binding vote and will not use town resources. It is a way for participants to set the priorities for the project. I want to stop there before I read the second paragraph and say that's very concerning to me. Because some of the things that I've read about the risks.
Who sent you this?
Mike Slattery.
Okay. The planning board chair.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought it was John Capson, that's why I asked.
No, but I have sent the concerns to John also, and yet to receive a response, but I did get an email asking, offering to be on a phone call, so I didn't want any of them to be phone calls. I really think this ought to be in a public forum, and the question and response ought to be made public. So the rest of it is the Empower Pownal initiatives will not raise local property or business taxes. One of the program's goals is to help residents save money on their utility bills through energy efficiency programs. Any small business development that comes out of this will add to the tax base and benefit the town. Smart growth refers to the encouraging development in village centers that already have town water and sewer. I've read that response a couple of times. Recreation ideas will be inclusive of all the members of the Pownal community, and participation will be voluntary. If you have any further concerns, please contact John Copens or Bill Butzow. So I'm going to skip the rest of it. So one of the comments I wanted to make on the response is that that is a really oversimplified explanation of what smart growth is, and it is not consistent with the way it was discussed in the kickoff meeting, and not consistent with the way it's discussed in the Progress for Vermont report. In the Progress for Vermont report, it is discussed more in line with what I put down as my understanding of smart growth. Plus the obvious questions that are just begged here. How does a government entity encourage anything? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be financial incentives to build here, which also is an implicit disincentive to build here. And we would like to know what those incentives and disincentives are going to be, but that's also something that ought to be in the public sphere and ought to be talked about.
Anybody? Oh, I was going to have the selectmen. You want to go? You mind if Shannon goes first?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think maybe the first place to start is with smart growth. I think it's kind of a lingo term, and I think there are many different ways that it's defined in this progress report. But in the program that we applied for, the way that Pownal defined it from our town plan, because everything that was written in that proposal just was taken right out of our town plan. So the way that it's defined in the town plan is village center designation. You know, that one of the goals of the planning commission is to get this village center designation, so that, like at our last planning commission meeting, there's a guy that he wants to start a new business in Pownal. He'd like to get the tax incentives that are available with these village center designations that are through the state. So that's the understanding of smart growth. So, and let me explain a little bit about the process of how the first meeting happened, June 24th. So I met with the select board, we applied, and then there was a steering committee of some of the members here on the select board were here, and actually some of the people who were here earlier were at that first meeting, and we named it Empower Pownal. So it was Pownal citizens who named the project and who took the goals that were from this climate economy. There were 9 of these different goals, and we just chose 3 to talk about during that first meeting, and smart growth wasn't one of them. So the people who have been involved from the beginning have not targeted smart growth, because at this point, there's no new development that, we have our eye on. There's no developer behind this project. This is completely volunteers. And my intention with applying was that, reading the town plan, there's 3 areas where in our town plan there are goals that say we need by 2018 to have a small business development council or economic development council in our town. We have to, by 2020, have a recreation plan for our town. We have to have these series of energy goals that are statewide goals. Then we're required to have, a goal that's similar, that's reflecting the state as well for energy. And one of those first goals in our town plan is encourage residents, business, and institutions within Pownal to conserve energy by implementing long-term education and outreach programs to encourage energy conservation. So, to me, I just said, okay, we've got lots of actions here in the town plan, but who's going to do them? And we really need more civic participation in our town. We have a lot of committees that are empty. We used to have an active recreation committee, but we don't anymore. We don't have an energy committee. We don't have a business committee or economic development committee. So this is an opportunity to bring people together, share ideas, volunteer to participate. There's no money involved. This is what we're getting through this program is facilitation from the state, talking to us about these issues. And my feeling was, hey, we're here in Montpelier. We don't get the state coming down to Pownal very often. And so this is our opportunity to look at what are some state programs that we can benefit from.
And some of us don't believe that Montpelier coming down here is a good thing.
And I understand
And those are
that.
people that don't have a voice in this. It
But
was
you
not
do.
marketed to them.
You do.
Oh, no. This is in reaction to a program that is already approved and is moving forward with a dot vote on the 25th. And on the day that we dot vote, it will not be yes, no for this initiative, yes, no for this initiative. It'll be which initiatives do we go forward with. And that's the way this is being presented. I would invite somebody to read an excellent piece by Randall O'Toole from the Thoreau Institute on the folly of smart growth. But when I read this and I read about regional governments and how these things are employed, it's exactly how it's happening here.
Well-
And from what I heard from the kickoff meeting, these are highly impactful ideas. And before we even know what those ideas are, we're not going to know what the ideas are until the 25th.
I'm going to interrupt you because one of the things
Sorry.
is, that she read from was the town plan.
No, I understand.
And there's 3 members from the town planning commission here tonight,
Okay.
okay? And those 3 members will tell you about how many people show up when they talk about these plans, and all the things you've just been outlining and voicing concerns about are in our town plan, which will go in effect to this town. And it will affect the bylaws, it'll affect where development occurs and everything else, and nobody shows. It'll come in front of this board, and I'm hoping when it does, people will show up here and read the town plan and voice the concerns you're voicing. I've been involved in zoning for, 25, 30 years. I'm one of the people that probably worked on smart growth even before it became the buzzword in the town. Because one of the things is we brought sewer, there's water in some of the villages. They weren't there when I started, and other people that are here started. And the thing is, we're understanding why there should be more development within our village areas. We're hoping it'll bring business.
No, I understand. You're hoping.
And that's what we're working for. But again, I think what this has done, I went through the last time when they came down and did a different initiative. It brings experts to the table that hopefully our citizens will pick their brains and get ideas from, and then further that education to make something happen. And that's really what this, we're not gonna be here voting on it. We're not gonna take and say, hey, okay, they picked these 6 things. We're not gonna say, okay, let's create a town committee and so forth. No, that's done by individuals in our town. It'd be no different than 6 businessmen came into town and decided to start a large business in our town. What they would do is go and look and see what's permitted and not permitted. They would come and lobby the planning commission. They would do everything they can to start that business and do it. And basically what this group is asking is, come on, citizens, come on down, and what is it you want to start? And you had 100 people there.
Yeah.
Take and tell us what you want to start, work together and make something happen. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think what you got to watch, what your concern is, what comes out of it. I think if you don't pay attention, you could have something run you over that you might not want. But I think that is changed by participation.
I am a bit in, I don't like the response that if you didn't show up, you lose your rights. And that's the way I perceive it. And it's just, it is, you know, here's, this thing was marketed toward like-minded people. It's a postcard that was sent out not to all citizens, just to property owners, with a barn and some solar panels on it. And
I think it was sent out to all the voters.
It was sent
no,
out
it was sent
to,
out
And
to
we
property
had-
owners.
it was the grand list.
Right.
Because that's a much bigger list.
No, it's property owners.
So we didn't have, it would have taken.
But that's
You're
less
right.
of a concern that it was sent out to just property owners. Everything that we came up with for ideas on that June 24th meeting is going to be filtered through the lens of the VCRD. And they're going to come back and tell us what ideas we had. And they're not going to tell us that until the day we're dot voting. So that's, in my view, not a good way to
From
do.
what I read though, you've got the opportunity at that day to say, this should be added, or that should be stricken.
Right, but you don't have, no, you don't have the opportunity to say this could be, well,
I think
maybe
you
they can
do.
say stricken, but they're not gonna vote on them. When those things go up, people put dots on there, and that's the priority of the town.
But that's
And it's
just
the people that show up. It's not the people, and when I say show up, I mean who it was marketed towards. I mean, I strongly recommend that anyone who's in favor of this program or opposed to the program actually
show up.
do some research on smart growth, what it really is, and how impactful it is. It's not all good. Certainly there are some good things about it, there are some bad things about it, but it is highly transformative and it is highly invasive to a community. One of the things that I've read about it is it always results in an increase in housing costs, even though it's sold as a decrease. It's sold as, here's some low-income housing. So, you know, read the pro, read the con,
I'm
and
very,
don't talk about it like
I'm very familiar with
it's not.
smart growth. The key is, you're right with how it could be affected, but I'm telling you, what they do down there with that dot vote will have very little impact on how smart growth occurs in our town compared to the town plan.
Well, let me ask you this then. The things that are coming out of that dot vote on the 25th, will there be a town-wide vote, yes or no, on those initiatives? Or do they just go forward?
They'll
Well, can
they'll
I-
create their own committees and they'll do
Yeah.
whatever they're gonna do.
And I think the term voting makes it sounds more threatening when you say voting. It's really like priority setting and just let me finish and kind of categorizing the things, and then there'll be these broad task forces. So the end goal is you'll have, you know, all these ideas, you group them together, and then you have like 5 committees. Because, I mean, how many committees can we have? You know, we're all busy. So we have
Yeah.
5 committees, right?
Yeah.
Jim was part of the last.
Does the word empower you, bother you? Because we went into the library, a group of people, we went on a chalkboard, we said, let's name this thing. We tossed around 4 or 5 names, and someone said empower Pownal. Okay, so we took a vote, and that was good.
We all voted
Threw the
for
other
it.
ones out.
I think it's an excellent nomenclature.
Okay, but you
I
know
have
what
no
word-
problem with
you
the
know what
nomenclature.
No, the word bothers you, or some people in Pownal, is the word power. Meaning Green Mountain Power, meaning wind power, meaning solar power. And now next day on the internets and everything, it was like, wow, Pownal's gotta come down here and they're gonna put all these wind tunnels and everything in Pownal. Pownal was chosen. You know why the Pownal was chosen? Green Mountain Park has solar panels. We have a hydroelectric plant going in down here. We're actually in front of the game as the rest of the state towns, in front of things with empowering, with power. we chose the wrong word, because the next day social media went through. 11
This
years
is not,
ago.
well, hang on, I can tell you that my concern with it has nothing to do with the nomenclature.
No, but I didn't see you on, the next day I'll be coming to my store on Facebook, like, what's going on? They're gonna put this, they're gonna bring down here, they're gonna shove this all down our throat.
We're gonna have solar panels and windmills on every road.
Right.
I appreciate where you're coming from, but this just got distorted overnight, and all of a sudden it just got
Well,
slowed.
I guarantee that my concerns come from understanding this report and looking at Section 6, which is this program, and how it fits into the rest of these initiatives. This is not some isolated initiative, and it is in context from Progress for Vermont, which I've read the report. I have to tell you, this is a smart growth implementation plan for the state. That's what it is. And it's smart growth by my definition, not by build your house here by the water tower and power and sewer. That's just not what that means.
I know. It's
Nelson
much
knows
broader.
better than anybody from the racetrack. When the racetrack was bought by a certain amount of people, the state was down, that's what they wanted. Smart growth within the racetrack, mixed age groups, walking, biking, farmers market, everything was going to be in this 160-acre complex.
Yeah, because they didn't want to spread all over.
There you go.
But that's only part of it. I think there's, let me go, I want to go back to some things that I wrote here. When it started, how this started, I think that, somebody brought it to the select board. We'd gone through this once before, a similar process. We thought it would be a good idea, and we were hoping that more residents and more people would be involved. And I would hope that all the people that received this notice and the 100 people that were sitting there were not of all one mindset. I'm hoping that they were diversified enough that they knew enough to
I
ask
wish I brought the
questions.
card, because I didn't bring the card. If you get that card in the mail and you're not interested in solar, you're not coming.
Yeah.
It wasn't come on down. Well, it was
But
six
forget
predetermined by outside of Pownal.
Forget the card and what it said, because my mindset says in Pownal, when you put 100 people together, very few
It
of
was
those people
very
have like
diverse.
No,
mindset.
you can't get two people to agree.
Well, from my view, it was
That's
not
that-
that diverse.
Okay,
Those were like-minded people. I was there, and I was there because I had
I was there, too.
concerns. I understand you were there. You were a speaker. I get it.
And I think-
but you're like-minded.
And I thought,
So
and
you're
Okay, but there were a lot of
like-minded with.
people.
and if
think
I
it was
wasn't
very diverse.
sick that day, I would have been there, and I probably would have been a speaker too.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that I keep going back to the town plan, and that's where people really need to focus on, because this thing that'll come out of here, a lot of people will key and go in certain directions and stuff, but they might even be showing up at the planning commission to say, hey, we want to make sure this is in it. And the state is forcing us to put certain things to do with smart.
No, I
growth.
get that, and to that point, I would recommend that everyone read The Folly of Smart Growth by Miranda O'Toole, because it talks about the misuse of an early 60s HUD regulation in order to force smart growth and give cover for it, right? It's not me, it's the region. It's not the region, it's the state.
Yeah.
Or it's a board that did it. And he talks about length in here, so I would point out that that's not a democratic
And it's
process.
been going on for, as you said, from the 60s on, and I'm very well aware of it.
Right, but it's a misuse of, it was intended to distribute federal funds, not as a smart growth, not as a way to do it, but it was misused to circumvent democracy, if I can be a little bold here, instead of giving the townspeople in the vote, giving a vote to everybody involved, and everyone who would be impacted.
And you have to, well, Vermont has various ways in which they manage that. Look, the regional plan has to be approved, the town plan then has to sort of go with the regional plan, which will have the stuff in it. But at the same time, anybody that applies here ends up in front of the DRB when it's business or multi-type housing that you're talking about, development. And in that process, is there 7 members or 9 members on that board now?
9.
9 members make the decision that you're talking about. Not the town, don't vote on it. 9 people make the decision whether that goes forward or not.
Right, and that speaks directly to the folly of smart growth and how these things get pushed forward.
Just having a concert. We went through 3 hours of a meeting and lawyers and everything, just trying to have a concert at the track, which was canceled. But the DRB was extremely lengthy, and 2 lawyers.
One thing I have to say, as much as the state pushes smart growth in its form, the regulations and the process anybody goes through for anything in this state, not just in the town, is pretty rigorous, and people get to have their say at those things. I don't think there's something where you can't say no, thank you. People will stay up and they'll be negative and say no, or they'll be positive and say, yes, I want it. They're heard, but the decision usually comes down to a very few people. But
That's the issue.
That's the sad part right there.
Yeah,
go.
that's
I'd
the
like to
issue.
say something. I'm on your side.
All right.
I
Thought I was completely outnumbered.
Yeah, he's on the he's on the planning board.
But
so.
they don't listen to me. Anyway, but I believe, why did they start, first of all, with any initiatives in Pownal? I mean, if anybody thinks them solar panels are beautiful, they're nuts. I try to look at windmills on top of the ridges, but that's me. I don't care. But I try to, and I'm a fossil fuel guy. I ride through the towns all the time. I work on oil burners. I look up and I say, look at that. All I see is the heat coming out the chimney. It's just wood stoves. I see all this fogging up the whole town. Everybody loves that, the wood. See?
You're on the wrong channel.
That's right. Channel is right. But there's a lot of people that think the same way as I do, too.
Okay.
But anyway, when you get this stuff down, I don't need all these people coming down from Montpelier or Burlington or wherever they're coming from, coming down to tell me what I think I should have. And does anybody look at electric bill lately and see what it is? All this smart electricity stuff, my electric bill is skyrocketed.
Mine too.
Plus, I have to pay money to give so that they can do these programs for somebody else. That's socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it. Look at your electric bill, it says here, you know. Why, for people with Efficiency Vermont. That's a ripoff. That's all that is. It's taking my money, because I'm paying my bill. The person that ain't paying their bill, they ain't taking his money. And what are they going to do? They're going to go and they're going to look at somebody's house. Oh, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. They probably save nothing. Anybody with any common sense or anything will research before they build a house. If you got half a brain, you can go down, well, now you got the internet, but if you got half a brain, you can go down to the library, pick up a book, how to construct a home. It'll tell you what insulation you need. It'll tell you all that stuff. You don't need somebody hammering this down your throat. The same thing with the lighting and everything. Here it is. But it all costs a lot of money, and I got to pay for part of it. I shouldn't have to do that. I don't mind paying my electric. I don't mind paying my oil man or my gas man. When they show up, they're giving me something I can use. I don't mind paying that. But when I pay my electric, I'm helping this conspiracy, what you're talking about there. I couldn't go to that thing because I was
Not a
working to get somebody
conspiracy.
some
This
water.
is not some conspiracy theory. I just want to put that out
It's
there.
worse.
This is smart growth, and
It's-
this is an
yes.
implementation plan for
And it's
smart
a-
growth.
and it's a great
That's
thing.
what it is.
Here, a minute ago, you were saying how bad it was. And I'm
is.
trying to agree with you, and now you're going the other direction.
No, no,
Which is all right, too.
Well, you said
I don't care.
conspiracy. I just want to make sure that this is not some conspiracy theory on
It's
my
a
part.
conspiracy as
This
far as I'm
is plain
concerned,
as
when
day
these people
a
coming
smart
down-
growth implementation plan.
Look at how many people get a living from coming down running their mouths.
Well, not me.
A lot of them. All these people that showed up down there. And a lot of them were people that have nothing to do. Anything that's implemented that costs money is usually implemented by people who have nothing to do, or it's a way of getting rid of the children for a day or a half a day or something. Like kindergarten, that passed overwhelming. We had a town plan. The last time we had a town plan.
No.
Last time we had a town plan.
You got him started.
That's right. We had a town plan the last time. What'd they say? No chickens.
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. You're living in Pownal. This is not. No chickens.
allowed in the
That's right.
village area.
In the village.
What?
No chickens.
None of the hit,
I can't have horses
Stupid
in the
stuff
village
like that.
area. I've had horses for years.
You're kidding me.
and they have chickens and horses and they have
You can't
everything.
have this, you can't have
But they
that.
have it in the town plan and
And
they
I
have it in the
encourage
bylaws.
everybody who
That's
watches
crazy.
this show, go to that planning thing and vote.
Yes.
Make a change.
Exactly, I agree. And
Well,
one thing
I agree too.
one thing I also agree that I just wanted to say real quick is that Ron is right that Efficiency Vermont is funded by, it comes out of our electric bill.
Okay.
So if that's where it comes from, let's get them here, giving some free workshops and some weatherizing programs for senior. I mean, that's their job, and they've never done anything in Pownal. So let's get them
They
here.
helped us at the Legion.
I was gonna say, they've
Yeah.
done
They came
some-
down,
they've
we
done some
saved
in the
a lot
year-
of money
In the years
down
past,
there.
there's been some.
Yes. No, I just wanted to say that above all this, we did it 11 years ago. I'm very proud of the Legion. for giving up their building, showing people that we're civilized down here. There was food presented. There was no cost to
Yes.
anyone. The people I talked to said, Jim, I've lived here a long time. I didn't know half the people in the room. So we came together as a group. When did we come together? Town meetings like this? It was a great time for people to come. 11 years ago was one of the better times we all came together at the Legion through Mr. Costello's program. Same thing, same people. Wasn't empowered to anybody. It was just a group coming together. And we had about 150 people. The fair put on lasagna dinner, and we had a great time. And that's what I thought was coming again until this came out.
Well, if I can speak on that, 11 years ago, it was not part of a 6-point plan to fight climate change called Progress for Vermont. This is considerably different. This is and I can't say this enough. Maybe I should turn to the camera. This is a statewide smart growth implementation plan. Section 6 talks about not Empower Pownal, the Climate Economy Model Communities Program. It's a mouthful. Now called Empower Pownal. It has nothing to do with the nomenclature. It has to do with how impactful this is. By its own definition, by its own goals, it will transform our economy and our town. The way the facilitators talked, and what I'm hearing in here is they don't have a lot of power, but sorry, I used the word power again. They don't have a lot of power, that we do have some control over those initiatives that are coming out of there, but we want considerable control. But the way they talked about it and the way they talked about smart growth and the transformative nature of the program was pretty severe. These were not mild initiatives. Every speaker that spoke at the end of each one of these sessions talked about the required lifestyle changes as we face this big challenge of a climate economy. And as though this were absolutely required, or in 2 years we're going to walk out of our front door and burst into flames because of climate change. And we're also doing this in smart growth. If you read the pros and cons of it, doesn't reduce the per capita iota of carbon output one bit, not one iota. It might even increase it. That's correct. So, and I guess maybe I have a lot of problems with the state, and I appreciate you giving me a local forum to complain about the state initiatives, but and I understand that, and I think you understand too, that these are driven by the state. All of our plans have to conform here, and have to conform to the state level. And it's a misuse of that HUD. Again, I'll repeat it. It's a misuse of that HUD ruling in the early 60s, or that HUD regulation. It is a deliberate and calculated way of getting around the democratic process to push through smart growth initiatives. And then it gives everyone who was involved in it complete cover. It wasn't me, it was the board. It wasn't the board, it was the state. It wasn't the, it was the region, it was the state. So, I don't know how anybody reads this, knows something about smart growth, and is not highly alarmed. I don't get it.
And again, I go back to the fact, the state approves regional plans. Regional plans, once approved, has to be followed by the town. The town then has to write their plan, which is approved by the regional people, and the people of the town, of course. But it's just,
if it was a
the
vote,
process.
at least the town will have said yes or no, and then if it gets implemented anyway, because it has to be to the state plan, the state knows they're violating what we chose to do. Instead of, this is all just one big party, and it's not.
Well, be aware that the town plan can be petitioned to be put on the vote for the people. The select board has the authority to approve the town plan, but if the people wish to petition to have a vote on that plan, we have to put it up to be voted on. So
That's good to hear. And I am new to this, and I do appreciate the time, and I do appreciate the discussion.
I just wanted to say one last thing, which is that I hear your concerns, and it seems to me that they are more focused on the state level. And so I just wanted to say that, my whole intention with this is get more people involved in the planning, get more people to the table.
Yep.
And I really think we need to give our select board credit, our planning commission credit, and the townspeople that we're not a bunch of sheep that are going to blindly follow some sort of mandated smart
Well,
growth.
yeah.
I mean, we're not. I think that's very obvious that Pownell people are smart.
Well, understand, I'm
And-
here to
That
get
comes
people
from a
excited
sheeper.
about it too. I want more people who think
Yeah.
like me to show up.
Well, there you
And,
go.
and of course on both sides, and of
Yeah.
course on both sides, but again, the marketing was really toward like-minded individuals. It wasn't, this is a transformative process, and you better come down and defend your rights. It was, we're gonna talk about resilience, we're gonna talk about solar panels, we're gonna talk about, and those,
yeah,
so
and-
though the
and-
people that
and-
showed up are the ones that are interested in those topics, not the ones that see it as a threat.
Yeah.
It didn't discuss it as a threat. It discussed it as, these are all wonderful things. Let's implement them all and talk about how we're going to do it. So if you're not
I
interested in
didn't get
doing
that
that,
idea from that at all.
Well, I agree with, there will be people that'll look at it and say, hey, these are the topics I wanna talk about, and they'll show up. But I think other people read it as, hey, we're gonna get together, we're gonna talk about things for the town. And that's, I know the marketing. And I'm
but
sure-
that's what it is. Even my concerns are met with the marketing information. It's, you know, instead of a real response, it's go ask someone else, or here's a regurgitation of marketing material I already have. And that's been the discussion so far. There has been no pros and cons discussion.
Well, I think that's, on, is the 25th when you meet? That's the time when people get up on the floor, because that's when the short hairs are gonna be there. They're gonna vote on something. And that's the time to.
And they're not gonna vote on something, they're gonna dot vote. Dot vote is a meeting
I'll put a
facilitation
dot-
mechanism, not
I'll
a
put-
mechanism
I'll
of
put- I'll
democracy.
put dot in front of it, they're gonna dot vote.
Well, but it's not a vote.
but-
I don't want it heard, it's not a vote. Dot voting is a meeting facilitation mechanism used mostly in corporate America. It is not a tool of democracy. And I just want to make that 100% clear.
Well, and I think a vote should have, if any town resources, let's say, okay, these 5 committees are categorized and prioritized with stickers, okay, dot voting. If whatever committees come out of that, and if they come up with an idea, bring it to the town and say, we have a grant we're gonna apply for from the state for a trail or a bike path or, you know, small business, et cetera, energy efficiency, whatever it is that's in those categories. Whatever has to happen next, if any town resources are used for anything, that should be voted on.
Yeah.
You know, that's
well,
a different,
well,
I mean, you know, if it's like,
Yeah, but it's town research. What happens with these things is like most of the things, it's either driven federally or state-wise because of grants. If you're really gonna do anything big in the way of an initiative,
Yeah.
you have to go after the money.
right.
And that's the bait.
But can I
That's the
just
big-
throw something out there, is some of the things that we'll be dot voting on, I am sure, building a train station is gonna be on there. And I am sure, I wasn't in the transportation section, but what I heard was, the facilitators were pushing very hard on building a downtown, and no one in the town wanted it. It will be very interesting to see
Downtown, I never
if
heard
building
that.
a downtown turns up on the dot vote, because that came from facilitators and did not come from anyone in the town, or at least that's my understanding. I wasn't in the transportation section, but that's what I had heard from it. But
I've said for years, and I know
I
the
don't know
planning
how
commission
it-
has, that we really need something that we can call a downtown. So, and I don't know if people said it at the table or not, but it's obvious that we don't have,
Or town center.
you know, town center. We
But
don't have a
that's the
place where
heart of
somebody
smart
goes and
growth.
shops or
Then
sit
you
down at a
then you have
restaurant or
incentives to live
anything
there,
else.
disincentives to live in other places, and it opens the door for a whole lot of other things that happen over time. The day we go in there and dot vote won't be the day that people lose their property. It will be years later as these initiatives grow and new regulations and other things are put in place to disencourage the sprawl. That's one of the major initiatives
I remember,
to come on
I
here.
remember long ago where they wanted minimum lots outside the city, all to be at least 5 acres.
Yes, that's true, and Bennington has something like that on Mount Anthony side.
they
But
have-
what it did was, it increased sprawl. People who had 100, 200 acres could no longer afford their property because the property values raised because of the restrictions on building. So they started breaking it up into 25-acre lots. These are the unintended consequences of
All you gotta do
you
is look around
create
town.
sprawl.
Spaghetti lots.
That's what I'm
Around
gonna
that
say, you look
250.
around Pownell and that you see so many spaghetti lots, because that's what farmers did. Minimum was 10-acre lots,
Yep.
and you couldn't have any more than 10. So they do whatever the division would be for that farm, and you saw, it had to have 150 feet road frontage, so you saw either 200 to 158 feet road frontage, then they ran it back to meet the 10 acres. And every farmer in town is still in business will tell you they destroyed just about every open field there was. Because houses were
Exactly.
scattered all
Well,
over.
exactly true. And in the agriculture section, I brought up, that a lot of our private citizens who own a lot of property need to be able to afford their property taxes so they can continue to loan their fields out to local farmers to kind of expand the local farmer's footprint. You know, you got a 600 acre farm, you can have access to 1,000 acres without having to buy another 400 acres.
Yep.
And it keeps our fields clear. It's a great win-win, but that will go away if smart growth is allowed to take hold in Pownal. I am not a proponent of smart growth.
You should have been here in the 60s when they were doing Act 250.
Well, again,
And
I
it
do
did say-
appreciate
but
the
at
time, and I
same
don't
time,
mean to get all excited about it.
What I
but
have to
it's
say though is that the one
passionate.
thing that you did say, which is true, there's positives to the smart growth and there's negatives to the smart growth. The same with when they did the Act 250. There was very positive things for the state for that, but there was things that were created negative for a lot of towns that it got impact because of that. And that's where you're coming from is you do this and it looks like it's good, but what happens 10 years out? 20 years out?
Exactly. But, and my underlying point is this is the discussion we should have before we invite outsiders to come in and implement something as impactful as smart growth.
Be
It's not
aware-
something we should be reacting to
Be aware,
because now we're
be
faced
aware
with a
nothing
July
will be implemented
25th
unless the people
dot
want to do
vote.
it.
They're not implementing it. It's volunteer committees of townspeople who are gonna get involved.
Well, okay, but
Nobody's
that's a
coming in
little
to
bit of the
implement.
inconsistency that I keep getting. It's volunteers, and it's volunteer, it's community led, and yet it's you can't get an answer there. Go talk to John Copens. Go talk to the state. Read this. I mean, and then the answers aren't here's the pros and here's the cons. I have yet to hear a con from anyone but me.
I say
So
keep-
we didn't
I
talk
say
about
keep-
this in a pros cons way.
Well, we're sort of going back around again.
We are.
What I'm
sorry,
saying
it's-
is,
it is redundant.
attend the meetings, and I urge everybody out there to attend these meetings. And I think that's where the voices should be spoken up in both directions, and see where it goes. I'm for one that I think these initiatives, when they come, is a plus for the town because it makes people think. It makes people decide what they want and not want. And
In that
but that's
regard, I
why-
think
But that's why you need the
Gets people
both
talking.
sides.
But the marketing is all one way. It's not a flyer that says, we're gonna do the smart
You've been
growth,
doing-
and here's the pros, here's the things that we
You've been
think.
doing a good job of marketing.
Well,
Yeah, front porch
Here's a
forums
good-
for any-
So be aware, I think.
And there's no town meeting to say, let's get together as a town and discuss
The
these
town-
goals
the
and
town meeting would
pros
probably not
and the
bring-
cons and risks.
The town
That
people would
didn't
probably
happen.
not bring as many people as this is bringing out.
That's right.
So stand up and talk.
You get 25 people.
Well,
that
And
might
I
be
tell
there,
you what,
lucky.
I think some of the controversy was good and that people showed up. And you
Yeah.
can tell some people came in going, what is this? And then they sort of said, oh, actually,
Yeah.
this isn't what I thought it is. And what I would urge you to do when you come to the next meeting is think about not only what you don't want, but what you do want for Pownal.
Well, of course, and
You know,
that's,
and I want to hear that.
well,
I mean,
I
I
can
think
give you
we
the
really-
overview right now.
Well, not now.
You already did.
Everybody's ready to, I'm saying, I want to.
Stop smart growth as core.
But
about that.
No, but what I'm saying is, I think that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what are
But-
people's ideas.
Well, and that's the thing you should bring up on the floor, and then explain why you think smart growth's the bad thing. Let
Mm-hmm.
people decide. Okay, I'm gonna close this meeting because we're sort of going in a circle.
Going right around that circle.
We are, and
I get a
appreciate
motion
the
to
time.
adjourn?
Sorry.
Second.
We're done with
adjourn.
everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Then you can make a motion.
Got a motion, got a
Yep.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll do the second, I don't care.
I made the
Aye.
motion.
I'm like,
I thought
I
you-
know.
lips move.
I know.